Hello everyone and welcome to the 18th entry in the Dev Diary series for our 2.5D platformer Chromatic Void. We have some cool new stuff to show off this week, including mechanics, visual effects, and more concept art. So let's go ahead and get into it. The first big thing we want to talk about is a new ability. So one of the bosses that you fight later on has the ability to create bursts of light that stun you, and once you defeat them, you are able to take that and then use it for yourself. Fair warning, it's a little bright, so just be aware. And there we go. So you'll notice Void turns green, and in a bright flash of light, the whole screen is obscured for just a second. So what does this do functionally? So functionally, if you have enemies on screen who are standing in your way, being the pests that they are, you can throw this move out and suddenly they are stunned. You can actually see here. Oh. But for real though, what this does to the enemy is you can see it actually blinds him. We can get a better look at that. There is a custom animation and function now called for when the enemy is blinded. They will react in some way and their attack patterns will be interrupted, meaning that you can avoid them or deal with them however you see fit. The other mechanics that we have to talk about are these little glowing spheres. So you guys have seen the health items that we've created before. They've had a little bit of an overhaul. They now pulse this light and the particles have been adjusted slightly. We also have these little white spheres, which are actually meant to replenish your stamina bar. So using abilities like your dash or the quick draw claw, and especially the flare, drain this stamina meter, drain this energy meter. And what these white orbs will do is they will replenish some of it. So we'll go ahead and just kind of burn a little bit of that energy. And when you get close to it, it goes swoop, and suddenly you recover a decent bit of that bar. The same applies to these green health orbs now. Before they would just sit idly if you got near them. Now, if you've taken damage and you get close to them, they will track you and heal you a little more easily. So like before, we'll just go ahead and take a quick look under the hood at what all of this means. We'll go ahead and look at the flare ability, since that's kind of the big one for today. So essentially the game just checks, are we already using the ability and can we move? And do we have the stamina to do it? So it checks for all those. If all that checks out, it sets your movement state, which is a custom function we've made to kind of reset all of the other things that you can do within reason. And then trips that this ability is being used and specifies that you can't jump anymore, because to be able to jump out of it would kind of break it. So then the game essentially, it says launch, but it actually is used to lock your character in their position and then triggers the ability. So from there, yeah, we just kind of get Void's position. It spawns the flare object. The bright flash is actually a separate object that is generated at the time of using the ability. So it spawns that, we drain the stamina, and then after a short delay, it triggers that we are no longer using the ability and that we can move and jump properly once more. So that's pretty much the gist of it. It really isn't that complex, but I think it has the potential to be really useful. So that's pretty much it. One thing that I did have a little bit of trouble with, and that I've seen other people have trouble with, is actually the tracking on the drop items, on the health items. So this is actually pretty simple to do, and I'll go ahead and show it off too, just in case anyone's curious. So what happens is we call a function that is checked every tick, which is the game's in-game timer. It will cast to the player character, in this case Void. It will check if their health is below the maximum, and if that is true, then it will check how close the player is to this object, in this case a metric of 300 units. And if that is true, then what happens is it takes the root, the core of the object, and moves that component towards the actor's location over 0.1 ticks, I guess, or 0.1 units of time. So essentially, it's always checking for this, but will only trigger if the player is close enough and does not have enough health in their bar. So this applies the same way to the stamina orb as well. I think adding that function is a good quality of life change that will really help players as they move through the stage. So now we're going to look over some concept art. So as we've been looking over Chromatic Carnival, we'll kind of jump back to a new section that we're introducing here, which is an arcade. Yes, a carnival with a fully fleshed arcade. It's a dream come true. Anyway, so essentially there will be waves of enemies that you'll have to clear to get from one end of the room to the other, and from there Void will actually be able to use the arcade cabinets, the electronic devices inside the building. With his lightning dash ability, he'll be able to move himself through the levels of the arcade until he reaches the top, at which point he'll be able to leave through the string of lights. Now the cool twist to this idea is that each time he enters an arcade cabinet, there's going to be a Wreck-It Ralph-esque mini level where you're actually traveling through various arcade titles in order to reach the next level. It was a fun idea that we came up with that I really wanted to try and execute, and we'll have more on those as we develop them. So that's everything we have this week, so let's go ahead and move on to the question of the week. And the question this week is, what is your favorite 2.5D platformer and why? What makes it a cut above the rest? What makes it special to you? Please let us know in the comments below, or even let us know on Twitter. You can follow us over there at Chromatic Void. We make regular updates and we're going to be posting some cool stuff. So thank you very much for tuning in. I really do appreciate everybody lending their support and their viewership to these videos. It means a lot. And if you want to keep up with them, you can go ahead and subscribe. Thank you, everybody. I hope you have a good week, and we will see you next time. Take care.